One of my first videos was about Naruto, and as a result of that, one of the earlier questions that I got about the series was if I planned to do an episode about Bleach. I just didn't think that by the time I got around to that series that it would be on its last legs.
Yes, Kubo Tite's Bleach, which has been in publication for just over 10 years, has officially begun its final story arc. And while it's a bit difficult to predict exactly how much longer that means the series will go on, it's pretty significant to hear that such a long-running manga will definitely be coming to an end, and sooner rather than later.
Now, over the past couple of years, I've been very vocal of my opinions on Bleach, which have turned sour over the years. Bleach has managed to jump the shark again.
How do you jump the shark from jumping the shark?
You turn around and jump it again.
Apparently we're being told that there's a book called Unmasked that we need to read.
I don't care! Okay? I don't care! I don't care about external material, alright? Kubo's a bad writer.
But let me make something perfectly clear. I don't hate Bleach because I want to hate it. I don't hate Bleach because I've always hated it. I don't even hate Bleach because I want something to rant about all the time. Bleach has a very dear place in my heart as the first manga series that I ever read.
I can distinctly remember that I discovered Bleach in the summer of 2005 because a friend of mine showed me a fan-subbed episode of the anime. I got really into it, largely because my friends were into it, and I watched every episode that I could. And then once I reached the first major filler arc, I decided to continue following the original story by reading the manga as well, something I had never done before.
So Bleach was my favorite manga for a good amount of time, and I still really enjoyed it up until about a year and a half to 2 years ago, and then I started to think it had really lost its luster, and it just got worse after that. That's just my personal opinion, but let me tell you, a lot of people share that opinion.
The English-speaking anime and manga fandom has a tendency to refer to Bleach as a member of the Big Three, along with Naruto and One Piece. All three series are extremely successful manga that started at around the same time, in the same magazine, and have dominated the market since around 2004. You could argue that any of the three series was the best, the most successful, and so on. One Piece and Naruto clearly exceeded Bleach in their popularity in Japan, but Bleach's English anime dub caught on the best by a long shot, and is now the only one of the three still airing on American television at all. But I'm not bringing this up to argue whether Bleach was or is better than either Naruto or One Piece. I just want to make it clear that for the better part of a decade, the series was considered to be among the cream of the crop. Not just for the magazine, not just for one genre, but for the entire manga medium. And if you look at things objectively, you really can't say that about it anymore. Sales numbers for the collected manga volumes have plummeted recently, down over 1 million sales per year since 2009. On the other hand, Naruto sales have held fairly steady, and One Piece sales have shot into the stratosphere. The difference has caused Bleach to drop from 3rd place in sales in 2009 to 5th in 2010 to 8th in 2011. Now it's not even in the top 5 highest-selling series in the magazine. If you look at a cover that features all the starring characters in Weekly Shonen Jump, who are the 3 most prominent? Naruto, Luffy from One Piece, and not a Bleach character! Toriko has all but officially replaced Bleach as Weekly Shonen Jump's 3rd flagship series, and it's still gaining momentum. And just as an additional kick in the teeth, the long-running Bleach anime was cancelled just under a month ago. Its replacement? Naruto SD, Rock Lee and His Ninja Pals, a gag anime based on a Naruto spin-off manga.
Bleach got the boot in favor of a Naruto spin-off series, starring an unimportant side character who barely ranks among the 20 most popular characters in the series. That'd be like if the next DreamWorks film got outperformed at the box office by those little walking binoculars from Toy Story.
Like it or not, Bleach is well past its prime and on its way out. I'm not saying this to start an argument, I'm assuming it as a fact and just trying to figure out why the series fell off the deep end. I sincerely wish that Bleach had gotten better at some point and regained some of the promise it showed earlier on, but that's not what happened.
So to understand why Bleach fell from grace, we must first understand why it drew praise to begin with. So let's take a look back at the glory days of this manga.
The first chapters of Bleach, a simpler time when Kubo cared about the little things, like drawing. In a lot of ways, Bleach seems very different now from how it started out. And I don't just mean in terms of art or character design, that goes without saying. Main character Kurosaki Ichigo has been through about 3 redesigns in the past year alone. Long ago, Bleach abandoned the literal Monster of the Week structure that it started off with, and gradually came to resemble, as many have derisively put it, Dragon Ball Z with swords. But much of Bleach's first year of publication focused on introducing the cast, while Ichigo learned the ropes to become a Shinigami, or Soul Reaper. and the first real story arc didn't really begin until chapter 51.
It's clear that Kubo always intended for the real meat of the series to come after the first year of publication, and a lot of people that I would talk to back in the day would recommend that new viewers or readers should just skip it. I have a slightly different opinion, though.
Keep in mind that being published in Weekly Shonen Jump for a full year is no easy task, so Bleach definitely had something to offer readers in those first 50 chapters. I think a lot of it had to do with Kubo's sense of humor. There are a ton of jokes from the early chapters of Bleach that I still get a kick out of, and pretty much every character had a little bit of wackiness to them, aside from really Ichigo himself. Not to say that Ichigo was a detriment to the series, because he was certainly one of its strengths. He served as a hero that you could admire, and really worked as a role model. He had a fairly no-nonsense attitude, which helped set him apart from other goofier shonen heroes, but he clearly had a good heart, always willing to help out anyone who really needed it. When a monstrous hollow attacked his family and injured Kuchiki Rukia, the resident Shinigami, Ichigo accepted Rukia's offer to temporarily take on her position and powers, not because he dreamed of being a hero, but because he was willing to do anything to protect his loved ones.
Not exactly a flawed hero that scholars are going to be writing about for decades, but it's more important for a shonen hero to be admirable than well-rounded.
That relatively uneventful first year really ended up paying dividends for Bleach. The short and simple story arcs not only gave readers a chance to grow familiar with Ichigo and Rukia, but also for them to grow familiar with each other. Imagine for a moment if the Soul Society arc had kicked off a mere 10 chapters into the story. That would have completely nullified the entire emotional focus of the plot. Through the first 50 chapters of Bleach, the audience gets to see Ichigo and Rukia go through a lot of experiences together, and grow from companions by necessity into
war buddies, friends, soulmates, lovers, pen pals. It's hard to sum up.
The point is that by the time Byakuya and Renji arrive and shit starts going down, you buy that Ichigo doesn't want Rukia getting in trouble. You buy that Rukia doesn't want Ichigo to die. And you buy that Ichigo will do whatever it takes to pick himself back up and save Rukia, because damn it, she's become somebody who's important to him. None of this could have been accomplished without that supposedly boring first year of publication, because without it, the audience just sort of has to accept the sense of urgency that the heroes feel in that situation. The entire Soul Society arc would have never worked without that essential foundation.
Foreshadowing!
From this point, even the plot summary for the Soul Society arc sounds pretty damn great. Ichigo is mortally wounded by Rukia's older brother Byakuya, an emotionally distant and duty-bound man who clearly contrasts with Ichigo's character. With help from the mysterious Urahara, Ichigo has a second chance at life and at protecting Rukia, regaining the use of his Shinigami powers, as well as acquiring something more. He and his friends invade Soul Society, not knowing what awaits them, but determined to save their friend, and wreak havoc as they race to reach Rukia before the time of her execution. By the time he has his rematch with Byakuya, Ichigo has completed his evolution as a Shinigami, and is now fully aware and in control of the power he possesses, or so he thinks. Ichigo and Byakuya engage in a magnificent battle, but Byakuya's advantage and experience proves too much to overcome. Ichigo is saved from certain death by the emergence of his inner hollow, born within him as a side effect of what he went through to regain his Shinigami powers. Ichigo's hollow rains devastating blows on Byakuya and nearly finishes him, but Ichigo fights to regain control, wanting to settle the battle himself, and after a final clash, he stands victorious. In the aftermath of the chaos, Rukia is pardoned, but she chooses to remain at Soul Society rather than return to Earth with Ichigo, who accepts her decision. All that matters to him is that his close friend is safe.
And then Aizen had to come along and fuck it all up with this broken-ass bullshit with stupid... That was really an illusion. I'm untouchable fucking... I'm getting ahead of myself.
Of course, you can't talk about the Soul Society arc without talking about the game-changing twist revealed at its end. Early on, Bleach fans actually bothered to protect new readers and viewers from spoilers about Aizen's true villainous nature, but I don't think that really lasted long. Aizen's reveal is considered to be one of the best moments in the series, and it was so well received that fans have been ranking him among their favorite manga and anime villains ever since. But more importantly, at the time, Aizen's arrival was a promise of greater things to come. The Soul Society arc was long and chock full of exciting battles, including a memorable and satisfying grudge match that took the series to a height it had never experienced before.
The Soul Society arc was what took Bleach from being pretty good to being fucking epic, and the single defining moment that marked the transition between those two very different states was Byakuya curb stomping the shit out of Ichigo. So, Fans saw Aizen do the same thing while being more ambitious and diabolical than any foe that Ichigo had to deal with before, and they took that as a sign that Bleach was going to get even better.
But as it turned out, the Soul Society arc would be the high point in the entire Bleach manga. Looking back from its conclusion, you could tell that there were signs that Kubo had always planned to continue the story afterward, especially considering all the small teases of Ichigo as a Hollow, culminating in the revelation that Aizen's plans focused on combining Shinigami and Hollow powers. But Aizen wasn't the reason the arc was good, and neither were the improved fight scenes, nor even was the introduction of Hitsugaya Toshiro, the series' most popular character.
Though clearly for a lot of people that certainly didn't hurt.
The Soul Society arc was good because Kubo did enough to make us care about what his characters were going through. You can't just have a big, stunning conclusion, or your audience won't see it as anything more than a big action scene. Entertaining, but not usually very memorable. Why is Ichigo's fight with Byakuya the best remembered battle in the series? Why is the revelation of his Bankai such an iconic moment? Because it's a symbol of how much Ichigo has grown throughout the story arc. Through all his battles up to this moment, he's learned and matured, and now he can stand on equal ground with someone who completely outclassed him before. The setup is classic shonen. Finally, Ichigo can settle his grudge against Byakuya, who is forced at last to see him as a worthy opponent. And plenty of other characters got their own moments as well. Hell, Rukia doesn't even get to physically do anything except sit in a cell, and she gets some of the best development in the entire cast. We get insight into her character and learn about all the guilt she carries around with her. For most of the duration of the arc, she doesn't feel she's worthy of being saved, and she just prays that nobody dies for her sake. This makes the end of the arc so much more satisfying because she's able to realize just how valuable her life is. When she says goodbye to Ichigo and thanks him for saving her life, you can forget for a moment about what's going to come later, about the yet unknown horrors that Aizen will unleash. For now, the day is won, and Ichigo has accomplished something important. For our heroes, and thus for we, the readers who stuck it out alongside them, the journey has been worth it.
And it never will be again!
Following the Soul Society arc came the Arrancar arc, the Hueco Mundo arc, and the Fake Karakura Town arc. Only the last iteration of the trilogy had an actual conclusion, which by most accounts,
meaning by my account,
utterly failed to match the hype that had gone into building it up over the course of 7 years. The Arrancar and Hueco Mundo arcs weren't bad, in fact they had their shining moments, but they weren't as good as the Soul Society arc, and the audience had to wait a really long time for a payoff that ended up not being worth it. After this was the disastrous Fullbring arc, which nobody seemed to give two shits about. Aizen ultimately failed to live up to the high standard he had set for himself as a memorable villain, and there were no new developments in the series that could make up for that loss. As enjoyable as the Soul Society arc had been, there was only so long that the series could get by on the nostalgia of its audience.
Eventually, Bleach's readers became so frustrated with the series that they started abandoning it. But this was not just a matter of a manga failing to recapture its peak success. Slowly but surely, Bleach decayed over time, until it eventually got to the point where it deserved everything it got. But that discussion's gonna have to wait until next time.